Welcome to the Survivor to Thriver show with your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Do you feel stuck, silent, and stressed? Is something hurting your heart and soul? Are you burning yourself out? If so, you are in the right place because this is the podcast people from all over the world join in to learn exactly how to stop suffering and start living with inner peace and joy. Let's get started. Hey, for the last few episodes, we have been talking about what is it that we're really needing when we find ourselves feeling angry or hateful in the aftermath of experiencing some kind of injustice or someone having hurt us really badly. And my heart identified 3 primary needs that I personally had in the aftermath of my surviving child sexual abuse. So we have talked in some detail over the last couple of episodes about the very first need, which was the need to just acknowledge that something very wrong had been done. That what I had experienced in terms of being victimized and subjected to the sexual abuse as a child, that it was not okay, that was wrong. Because remember, I had, in the immediate aftermath of experiencing that trauma for several years, I sort of went into this denial and suppression phase where I was denying and suppressing how I'd been feeling and what I was needing and wanting. I was living with this attitude of everything's fine and I'm just going to move on with my life as if nothing had happened. I don't want to think about what happened. I don't want to deal with what happened. In fact, nothing happened. Just move on. Move on. Just forget about it. Move on. That was what I was trying to do. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I failed miserably in that attempt. Well, I succeeded to some extent, but I also failed miserably in other ways. So it was okay, so that was the first step. Okay, just acknowledge that, you know what happened was really, really wrong. And I didn't deserve it. It was not okay that it happened. It wasn't my fault. Now, as I began to acknowledge the wrong that had been done, a second need also emerged, right? It was very closely connected to the first need, by the way. And the second need is the need to bring the wrong that has been done to light. Okay? So now, just like with the first need, we talked about how this acknowledgement is something that this need for acknowledgement is something that can play out at different levels, right? In the same way, this need to bring to light the wrong that has been done, or the injustice that has been done, it can play out at a few different levels. And depending on your situation, you may need to play it out on just one or more of those levels. So for example, at one level, the most basic level, bring to light the wrong that's been done, right? So what's that about? What does that really mean, bring to light the wrong that's been done? So the way that my heart interprets this is that it's basically, this need is related to, or it's about bringing to awareness the wrong that's been done, the hurt that's been caused. Because what's the problem? It's like, what's the problem with wrong being done or just injustice happening? It's because whenever wrong is done, whenever injustice is committed, it hurts us, right? That's why it's wrong. That's why we perceive it to be an injustice, is because it hurts us. It violates some need that we have. It prevents us from being able to meet some essential need that we have. That's why we perceive it to be an injustice. That's why we perceive it to be something wrong. And the emotional response is hurt. And depending on what the wrong was, what the injustice was, like, you may be hurt not just mentally, emotionally, but you may even be hurt like at a physical level. Or you may be hurt like where even your physical environment is impacted, right? So there are all kinds of things that could be happening. All kinds of levels at which that injustice or that hurt is impacting you. So again, because these wounds can impact us at so many different levels in our lives, when we talk about the solutions and what is really that we need, the solutions may also need to be implemented at different levels. So at one level, it's like, okay, so the core issue is about bringing the injustice, the wrong, but more specifically the hurt that we have experienced, to bring to awareness that hurt to light. See, it's like, you see how it's very much connected to the first need of acknowledging something wrong had been done, but it's also distinct. It's like bringing to awareness the hurt, the specific, like, what was the wrong, like specifically that happened, and how did it cause harm? How did it cause hurt? That is at the essence of this need to bring to light the wrong, right? And the reason for that, for why we need to really bring to this hurt to awareness, is so that we can have a deeper, fuller understanding of the problem. I don't remember when I talked about this specifically before, but it's just this basic idea. I think it was Albert Einstein who made this statement. He said that if I'm given a problem and my life depends upon solving this problem in 60 minutes, I would spend the first 55 minutes making sure I correctly understand the problem. Because once I understand the problem, once we understand the problem, the solution naturally and easily emerges. It's like, okay, all right, so now I know something wrong has happened. Some great injustice has been done. But now I need to understand at a deeper level what happened, what was the actual problem, so that I can come up with a more effective solution. So it's like, okay, all right. Okay, all right. So we're understanding the problem. Okay, all right. So, And the end results, by the way, we also know. So it's like, why are we bringing the hurt to awareness? Why are we trying to figure out the problem, what the problem was? Not just for its own sake. We're not just randomly intellectually curious about what happened. We have a goal, right? We have a specific goal, and our goal is that, look, I don't want to be hurting anymore. I want to take corrective action, heal the hurt, so I can get back to a place of peace and calm and health and happiness. It's like, okay, all right. So we know that our end goal is to regain our health, to regain our happiness, regain our inner peace, and to stop the hurt. So now the thing is, okay, what's the best solution? What's the best solution? How do you heal the hurt? What is the corrective action that you can take? Well, that really depends on what the specific hurt was, right? Like in my case, the specific hurt that we've been talking about, or that I've been sharing with you about, is the hurt of being sexually abused as a child. Now, I've spent a lot of time in previous episodes talking to you about in detail, analyzing what the problem was, why it hurt, and what the solutions have been, the different parts of the solutions that I've identified and that I've been implementing. So I don't want to get into it very much again within my own context. It really, this is where you kind of have to look at your own personal situation and figure out your personalized solution, like based on your unique experience. And, this is actually where a lot of us get stuck. Okay, so let me actually talk about that, right? That aspect of the challenge that we can face. Look, if you remember from having heard this podcast and me talking about my experiences and my struggle to heal from my experience of child sexual abuse, you know that for 12 years after I experienced abuse, I was too scared to tell anyone about what I had experienced and how it had impacted me, how it was continuing to impact me, how I was struggling with that, struggling to heal from that trauma. Now, in the meanwhile, within these 12 years, it wasn't like I was not doing anything to help myself. It wasn't like I wasn't trying to help myself feel better and heal and all that. But the problem was that as long as I was too afraid to speak up, to speak out about what had happened to me, and thereby reach out for help and support, and thereby allow help and support to reach me, I really sort of put myself in a position where I had to struggle alone to figure things out, right? So when we're, by the way, talking about, okay, we have this need to bring the wrong done to light, that's another level at which this need can play itself out, right? Or may need to play itself out, is where I'm not just acknowledging it to myself, I'm not just trying to understand this problem at my own individual personal level, but I also bring the problem to light, to awareness of other people. Other people who may be involved in either like they're part of the problem, and so it's like I need to confront them and face them and do what needs to be done to have them stop their hurtful, harmful behavior, right? Or change it. And reach out for help and support, bring to awareness, to light this particular problem or injustice to other people around me or in my life who are able to provide help and support in understanding the solution and identifying the solution, or understanding the problem and identifying the solution and implementing the solution. Because see, each of these steps is also a distinct can present its own distinct challenges. Trying to figure out the problem, that making sure that you have understood it properly. I mean, my God, Einstein was like, that's what I'm going to spend 55 of my 60 minutes on. Because it's that important, it's that crucial, but also it can be that challenging. Like you really need all that time to make sure you're correctly understanding the problem. And sometimes it's not possible, like you may not as yet have the knowledge and the capacity to be able to understand the problem on your own in the best ways. And that was exactly the problem that I ran into. That when I experienced the sexual abuse, I was only 8 years old. I didn't even have the language to say what happened to me was child sexual abuse. And one of the things that kept me silent, particularly in the immediate aftermath of, or even as I was going through the sexual abuse, one of the things that kept me silent was, as I tried to even think about and imagine what I could say to someone, to my mother or to other people in my family, to have them help me. Like I couldn't think of like how to even talk about what I was experiencing. And so that lack of understanding was actually part of what kept me silent and stuck for as long as I was silent and stuck. So it's like just understanding the problem. My gosh, you may need help and support from other people. Now, in my case, what happened was that around 14, when I was around 14 years old, I started to get access to knowledge and information from books and magazines that I never had access to before. It was partly because of my age, but also partly because of like my physical environment. Remember, my family, we kept moving around, right? And so when I was around 14 years old, I ended up in Pakistan. And in Pakistan, I was living as part of my joint family system. And my family in Pakistan is relatively well off, like, to be quite honest and just like frank, and quite rich actually. And so I was able to afford things like buying all the books I wanted to buy, and be able to go to like these libraries and the British Embassy and the American Embassy and things like that. I never had access to those resources before. I was living in Pakistan, right? But when I was living in Pakistan, I suddenly gained access to all these resources, which gave me access to all this new knowledge and information that I never had, which gave me the ability and the capacity to be able to analyze and understand my problem and what I was struggling with in whole new ways that had never been opened to me before. So it was like, okay, so it's like I'm trying to figure out my problem, and so I start getting access to all this book-based knowledge for the most part. I was just finding all these books that were turning out to be really, really helpful. But then what I started to realize was that it was one thing to have the theoretical knowledge, and quite another to apply that knowledge in our lives, right? Because these books that I was reading and learning from, they were talking about the challenges and stuff from a particular perspective and making certain assumptions. Like, for example, right now, I am doing this podcast, right? And I'm presenting these problems and addressing the potential solutions to them, but it's all from a particular perspective, making certain assumptions, right? Your situation may be very different from my situation. Your challenges may be very different or may feel very different than the challenges that I'm describing. And so it's like when you begin to try and implement the suggestions, the options, the specific tools that I'm recommending, you may find yourself struggling to implement those tools. Or you may try to implement those tools and find that, oh, this is not really working for me, or it's not working out the way that Samia said. Just like when I was reading all those books and, trying to implement what I was learning from them, I was like, oh, well, this helped, this worked, but this part didn't. And that, was actually completely useless to me. I couldn't even apply it because it just, I'm in a completely different situation or context, right? So then it was like I started feeling this need to ask questions. So that, and have somebody answer them to me in a way that they could help me figure out how to apply these concepts and these solutions to my personal situation in my particular specific context. And it was really, really challenging. It's like if I'm not allowing myself to speak and let other people know about what I've experienced and what I'm struggling with and suffering with, how are they supposed to help me in that way? They can't, right? So I found myself really stuck because of that. So it's like, look, if this is something you find yourself challenged by also, please reach out for help and support. Reach out for help and support and allow others to help and support you. And you know that I'm at least one person that you know that you can reach out to for the help and support you need. Just go to my website at www.academyofthriving.com. Click on the Contact Us page, and you'll see different options for how you can connect with me. So until we connect next time, I wish you lots of peace and joy.